The Chimera Ant arc brought forth debate in the anime community that had rarely been seen before. The sudden tonal shift from the lighthearted beginning of the story was jarring to some, but also a well-needed change for others. For me personally, I agree with the latter in that this arc provided us with some of the most intriguing, complex, and relatable characters that I had ever seen before in anime. The dichotomy between the philosophies of the humans and the Chimera Ants was an incredible display of storytelling as the lines between monster and human were blurred to its utmost. By the end of it all, you can't even tell who's in the right versus who's in the wrong. As a part of this narrative, Pitou had always stood out to me as a character who teetered on this moral balance beam, but it was all for the purpose of serving a single person, their king. Throughout this video, let's take a look at Pitou's character development, powers, and legacy to investigate why they are the living embodiment of the mixed morality between humans and Chimera Ants. Hi guys, welcome back to Anime Analysis, a channel dedicated to discussing and analyzing the best characters anime has to offer. For this week's video, we're analyzing our favorite feline royal guard, Neferpitou. If you enjoy this content and want to see more Hunter x Hunter or analysis content on the channel, consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It only takes a handful of seconds and your feedback would mean a lot to me so I can continue to produce the best content for you all moving forward. Also, as a side note to clarify things, I'm going to be referring to Pitou in this video by the term they, given there's been a ton of ambiguity surrounding the gender of this character. When Pitou was first introduced, they used the term boku, meaning I in Japanese, which is predominantly used by males, however it's not exclusive to males. Additionally, throughout the whole manga from 2003 to 2011, Pitou is classified by the term aitsu, which is the gender-neutral pronoun directly translating to that person. So with that out of the way, let's get into the video. In their introduction, Pitou acts as you would expect of a traditional Chimera Ant, ruthless and without any regard for human life. Pitou shows signs of sadism, selfishness, and love for fighting by immediately leaving the ant nest to test their strength against an opponent, which ultimately led to the death of our main protagonist's mentor, Kite. Pitou enters the story as a predator, completely devoid of any emotion, just killing for fun and lacking any real empathy. Keep in mind that this was before the king was born, therefore, Pitou was operating under the sole discretion of themselves and their own ambitions. Besides the queen, who they didn't seem to respect all that much or have any meaningful interactions for that matter, Pitou had nobody to serve or take into consideration. They had very few connections apart from their fellow Chimera Ants, and never really understood what it meant to be trusted by someone, shown compassion, or realize what it's like to hold someone dear. When the king is born, this entire idea is flipped on its head, as Pitou now is someone who they want to serve wholeheartedly. The change in Pitou's characterization couldn't be more apparent than when Meruem asks all the royal guards what his name was. Yuppie responds by saying he's unable to provide a suitable answer for the king. Shiapouf responds to the king's question by saying that he has no need for a name and that he's the unanimous and all-powerful king. Interestingly, however, Neferpitou responds by saying the king's name could be whatever he deems it to be. I've always found this response the most interesting out of the three royal guards due to its ambiguity. Moreover, there's a deeply rooted sense of loyalty and compassion that can be found within these words. Pitou cares so much for the king that although they can't give a straight answer, they selflessly declare that he can choose whatever name he likes the most, because Meruem is their light in this world. This declaration is in stark contrast to Shiapouf, who believes that Meruem can only fit into the perfect ideal of king as envisioned by the species as a whole. In essence, Pitou wants what's beneficial to Meruem the person, but disregards the well-being of the species by doing so, and Pouf wants what's best for the species, envisioning the ideal king, but has very little to no interest in Meruem as an individual. This humanistic shift towards empathy and compassion reaches its apex during the palace invasion, when Pitou returns to find Komugi injured and the king completely devastated. After receiving recognition and trust from the king they idealized, Pitou visibly began to show signs of human emotions. To learn how important Komugi was to the king filled them with so much joy that Pitou would gladly do whatever is necessary to ensure Komugi's safety and fulfill their purpose, even willing to sacrifice an arm or their body to appease Gon's rage for Kite's death. Pitou was the embodiment of selflessness and compassion that I would argue mirrors the gradual humanization we see in many of the ants throughout this arc of the story. That sense of honor and sacrifice carries over into their final moments, as Pitou's journey concludes with being grateful they could be the target of Gon's rage as opposed to the king. The way Pitou was crafted from being a pure sadist to a creature willing to empathize with another is truly beautiful character development. Pitou's symbolic change through the story of Hunter x Hunter is also present in their Nen abilities. Dr. Blythe can also be translated as toy repairer. Pitou began the arc as a toy repairer, as they wanted to keep playing with Kite because of the ecstasy the fight provided them. Pitou's objectivity towards others as mere play toys is a clear interpretation of this side of their Hatsu. Also, I think it's important to note that in an arc so central to the main themes of compassion, empathy, and the meaning of humanity, Pitou's power is originally the antithesis to this. Apart from killing one's empathy by reviving corpses, they remove the core element of what it means to be human, the ability to feel and empathize. Pitou ends the story, however, as a doctor, given that they were entrusted with a life by Meruem. Through the king, Pitou realizes that one's relationships is an essential part of their identity, and how without them, they can't identify as themselves. Similar to how Meruem's love for Komugi helps him establish identity, Pitou's devotion to the king helps them become more sensitive and empathetic moving throughout the story, as they ultimately empathize with Gon about the death of his mentor. This power in and of itself is the thematic embodiment of Pitou's transition from cruelty to compassion. In essence, Pitou's journey is a positive and symbolic one. Having died as one of the many puppets they created, Pitou served to reinforce the heavy emphasis on humanity in this arc of the story. Their ability to draw out such hatred from a character while realizing their own humanistic and empathetic traits is commendable, and one of my favorite things about this character. So with that being said, that concludes our discussion on Neferpitou. If you like this content and want to see more Hunter x Hunter on the channel, please leave a like to let me know. Also, if there's any other anime you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear your suggestions in the comment section below. As always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more anime analysis and discussion content videos. Take care everyone, and until next time, stay curious anime fam.